Hello, I'm T-Pain, and welcome to another Let's Learn Python. Thanks so much for joining me. If you feel like skipping ahead to any one of the chapters above, or even the examples, feel free to click into the buttons. Okay, so let's get started right away. Again, we're using Python 2.7.3. Open up idle in your window and follow along with me to get the most out of this exercise. All right, so I'll give you a second to do that. Okay, so the focus today is on more data types and data structures. So we're going to be going over strings, tuples, lists, and dictionaries. So strings are really just a whole bunch of characters. They could be letters of the alphabet, numbers. They could be characters like exclamation point or the ampersand sign. Okay, so strings are declared using quotation marks. So type in x equals single quotation, ham, end single quotation. Enter. And Python's accepted it, then type x again, and you'll see ham is sped out in single quotation marks. You can also declare them with double quotation marks. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. Ham sandwich, x equals ham sandwich in double quotation marks. Enter. X, enter. And again, notice that it spits out single quotation marks as well. Python is very smart in that it can accept both single and double quotations. It's merely a matter of preference. A lot of C programmers will tell you to use double quotations. It really doesn't matter. They typically use double quotations for any like full strings, and then single quotations for actual characters like H or C or 5 or whatever it may be. Okay? All right. So strings work very much like the integers in that you can add them together. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say y equals x plus quotations. Let's type book. Okay. Enter. Now type y. Enter. And now notice what it does. Ham sandwich book is all one word, all in a single string. And the only reason it didn't include a space in there is because I didn't type one in there. So we'll go ahead and try that again. Y equals x plus space book. I know this doesn't make any sense, but let's go ahead and try it. Ham sandwich book. So notice the space actually occurs in here. So you have to be explicit in what you're adding together in two strings. If you want a space in there, you have to declare it. All right. Great work. All right, so you can already see just a lot of power that Python has with strings and being able to combine it with different strings to combine even or to make even bigger strings. So we can also do this with variables. So I'm going to type z equals 10. Enter. And then I'm going to type y equals x plus z. Type that in and watch for the error that comes out. Okay, it'll say traceback cannot concatenate string and int objects. So if you want to convert an integer or a float value or whatever it may be into a string value, all you have to do is type this really simple command, this function called str. So we're going to type in y equals x plus str z. And what this str does is it converts it to a string value. All right, type enter. It's accepted. Now type y again. Boom, ham sandwich 10. So that's a great way of combining your strings with other variables. All right, so combining strings with variable types like integers or floats, the string function works pretty well, but there's other things we can do inside of that. So let's try, I'm going to introduce you to another thing you can do. If you type y equals, type something, and then space, %d, end quotation marks. And then I want you to type a space, and then type another %sign, and then type z. Now watch what happens. What's going to happen is this percentage sign is saying, hey, replace whatever's in here with what is going to be after the quotation marks with a second parentheses. So it's saying, hey, insert this integer in this location. D represents integers, F represents floats. So D, I don't know why, it just does represent integers. Type in enter, and then type Y again. It says something 10. See, it worked perfectly. So if we wanted to, we can also type F. So we're going to go ahead and type Y equals percent something, percent F, in quotations, percent Z. Enter. And now, Y. And look at what happened. It converted that integer, Z, into a float value in here. But it threw on a lot of extra zeros. So let's say we want to actually get rid of those zeros. There's a great command that you can do. It's kind of a sneaky way of controlling how many zeros and how many integers, or not integers, but values are contained within and after the decimal point. So what we're going to type is Y equals quotations something, again, because I can't think of anything else to type, percent sign, and here is where we're going to type in the special command. So we're going to type point 3 or period 3 and then the F in quotation marks, space, percent sign, Z. Now watch what happens. Enter. And then Y, enter. And now notice that it's created a float value out of the integer value Z, and only had 3 decimal points or 3 zeros after the decimal point. There you go. So it converted it to a float and added 3 extra digits. So now I'm going to convert Z to a full float value with a whole bunch of characters. So I'm going to type 1 point and then a whole bunch of numbers. Enter. Okay? And now we're going to try that last command that we did again with Y equals something, percent sign, 0.3 F in quotation marks, percent sign, Z, enter. And then type Y again. So it rounded from 6.54, etc., to 6.55. So it rounded it. So that's some of the control that you have when putting variables or converting variables into strings. Okay, so the next useful command to learn is \n, and that backslash is right above the enter key on your keyboard. So what we're going to do is type x equals double quotations te \n st in quotations. Enter. Now what's going to happen is x is going to be spit out just as is. So type in x, enter. Now when you're actually programming modules, you're going to use a debugging tool called print. It's just a simple function. Just type print and then whatever you want to print out. And so for me, I'm going to type X. Now watch what happens when I do this. So it actually, the \n is a way of saying new line. So what it'll do is it'll just basically press enter every time it comes across that specific combination of characters. So \n is enter, and then it types enter again, and then it says st. So test is what we're going for. Perfect. So if we just typed in test with print, notice that it won't actually happen. Enter, test. It prints it out as you'd expect it to. No quotation marks are included or anything. It's merely spitting out exactly the strings that is being fed. That's the print function for you. Very, very useful. We'll be using that a lot later on. So next we're going to be learning about the /t or tab inside a string. So we're going to type in x equals double quotations te test. Actually, let's type test. Test \t and then another test. In quotation marks, enter, and then type print x, enter. And now notice what happens. Test is actually separated by the tab function according to how many times it was typed in. So it jumps forward 2 different times. So \n and \t are 2 extremely useful character combinations that I use a lot when using strings. So next we're going to be learning about the keyword in, which is used for conditionals that we're going to be learning about in another episode. So how you use that is just type quotation marks, whatever you're checking for. So we're going to check for ham, space, and the ham was in quotation marks, in, which is not in quotation marks, and then ham sandwich in quotation marks. Sandwich! And now it's going to return true or false, depending on if ham is in ham sandwich, which we know to be true. And there it is, true! So, in can be used, it's checking for is something in something else. So we could type in A in ham. True. And there you go. It works just the way you think it would. And there's a couple other keywords that we'll be learning about later on. So think of lists like grocery lists. At a grocery store, you can purchase whatever you want. You can buy milk, bread, condoms, whatever it may be. It can have whatever we want inside of it. So the list is the exact same. It can control or have just about any variable type we want inside of it, including some of your own that you've created with classes. So we'll get into classes in another lesson, but let's go ahead and just create a list. So x equals, and then open close bracket, not squiggly bracket, just regular bracket. Enter, and then type x again, and it'll spit out that list. So that's the way you declare a list. So let's go ahead and put something inside there. X is equal to, and then we'll type ham in quotation marks, and then 4, and let's throw in a 2.2, and then close the brackets. Enter, and it accepts it. Type in x again, and it spits out exactly what we have in this list. So this is a way of containing a list of whatever values you'd like. Now, you may be asking, okay, I have a list, but how do I add to it? Simple. All you do is type in whatever the list name is, and then type dot append, and then whatever you want to add to it. So say I want to add 5, or yeah, there you go, 5. So type in x dot append, parentheses, 5, enter, and then type x again. And now you can see that it's added it right into the list. Say you want to insert a value somewhere in there. How do we insert a value? X dot insert, parentheses, and then wherever you want to include it. So I want to say I want to include it right after the second object. So type 1, and then I'm going to type include a 3.1415. If I can type it, there we go. Enter, and it accepted it. X, boom, it inserted it at the second location. Boom, done. All right, great job. So now let's say that you want to remove something from this list. So the way you do that is actually with a function called pop. So type in x.pop, and let's pop off the first value that we didn't like, the pi. Nobody likes pi. And what it does is it'll actually return the value. So if you want to store it in a variable, very, very useful. You've got a way of inserting and now pulling from that list. And if you type x again, it'll spit out the exact list without that value, and it'll shorten it. So there you go. All right, great work. So another useful function that you should know about is really short, len, open close parentheses. And what it is it's checking for the length of a list, or a length of whatever's being fed in. So if you wanted to feed in a whole string of characters, like I could type in words, and it's a way of checking for the length of whatever it is. Since a string is a string of characters, it'll check for how many characters are inside. So it works the exact same for a list. So if we type lang and then x, close parentheses, enter, it says, hey, you have 4 items within your list. This is extremely useful for when you're doing loops and stuff, and you want to know how many times to iterate through a list. All right, great. So just like you could convert a integer or a float into a string, you can also convert stuff into a list form. All right, so to use the list function, type in list, open parentheses, and then quotation marks, and then type in ham, and then in quotation marks and parentheses, enter. And now notice that it'll split it up based on each character of the string. And now if you wanted to add in a whole string, the way you do that is you type, let's go ahead and create a list, y equals, open close parentheses, just to create one. And now we're going to go y dot append, and we're going to add in ham as the word, enter, now type y, and it's added in the whole word itself, rather than breaking it up by a string. Perfect. And now to double back on a point that we made earlier about checking if something was in something else, we're going to, you could type in, let's see, S in something, enter, and it would return a Boolean. You can also check if something's within a list, and that's really easy, just the way you think it would be. So I'm going to type if S is in Y, the new list that we created, enter. And it's saying, no, there is no value of S within the list Y, which only has ham. So there is no S in ham, I'm sorry. Okay, so that's very useful to know for later on down the road. The next guy I want to teach you about is tuples. Think of tuples as grocery lists, but they have a no return policy. In other words, they cannot be adjusted. Once they are created, they're pretty fixed. So how do you declare them? Just like you'd create a list, x equals, but instead of using brackets, you use parentheses. And it's a way of setting it in stone. So I'm going to type in ham and 4 and 5. Close parentheses, enter. And if you type x again, you'll see that it actually spits out that tuple. So if there are no functions for adding and removing. So the upsides of a tuple are it's much more efficient in terms of memory, and it's much cleaner. And if you were to hand this off to somebody else, it means they can't really adjust it. Meanwhile, you don't have the flexibility of a list. You can't add, remove, or adjust stuff around. It's just set in stone. Personally, I don't use tuples very much, at all, because of their lack of flexibility, but they're very useful to know about in your, very useful tool for your toolkit. Alright, so next we're going to dive into dictionaries, and dictionaries are a way of binding a key to a value, much like a phone book or an address book. You have a name, and then you have a phone number that is bound to that name. And these things are paired together. So dictionaries have a number of other names like hashtables and maps. You'll hear them thrown around, but they're all the same thing. Alright, so a way that you can actually use dictionaries is for, let's say, attributes of a character. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and create this character Sam and make it a dictionary equal to, so make it a dictionary, you just open and close squiggly brackets, enter. Okay, so now we've created it, and now to add to it, we're going to type in Sam, and then straight bracket. So we're going to type quotation marks, weapon, close quotation marks, close parentheses, or bracket, equal to a chainsaw. Enter. Okay? And now we're going to add an attribute for his health. So we're going to type in Sam, straight bracket, health, in quotation marks, close bracket, equal to, let's give it 10. Enter. And now we've created a dictionary with items inside. So type Sam, enter, and now you can see we've created the weapon, and he has a chainsaw. And now he has health of 10. So right now we've got a way of storing his information within a place that's based on keywords and values. So this is very, very useful. And I really need to emphasize that it can hold way more than just integers or strings. It can hold class instances for different stuff you have. So if you have an attribute for his actual weapons, you can place this string chainsaw with an actual instance of what it is, what it does, what its capabilities are, whatever it may be, right there within the dictionary. So we've created values and we've assigned them. How do we actually retrieve them? Just the way you think you would. Sam, bracket, and then type in whatever it is that is the keyword that you're looking for. So I'm looking for the weapon. What weapon does he have again? Enter. Boom. It spits it out. Chainsaw. There you go. So the way of indexing what he has is by typing it in straight into the brackets, and it'll spit back out. And so you can assign using the brackets and the equal sign. You can reassign using that, and you can also retrieve using just the brackets. Alright, so we've added We've retrieved items from the dictionary. Now, how do we remove items from the dictionary? And now, I've personally never used this ever, but you can type in DEL space the name of the dictionary and the item. So let's say he doesn't have any more health. So delete health, enter, type Sam, and now it has successfully removed that property, that attribute. And there you go. So you've removed an item from the dictionary. All right, guys, great job today. Here's a few more problems I want you to work through. You're going to get a lot more out of this if you try to wrap your brain around what they are, what they do. They have a lot of great concepts in them. And let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help out. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or concerns. Share this with anybody you think could really benefit from learning Python. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me.